Salutations, folks! I am your Professor Chrissy Thomas, and this video lesson is self-communication, so self-awareness and communication. Let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? So, this entire lesson pretty much encompasses who are you? Who are you? You could probably sit down and make a list. I am. Things that I am. I'm a mother. I am a wife. I am a teacher. I'm a crafter. I'm a baker. I'm a dork, nerd. I am a horror fanatic. I'm a makeup enthusiast. I am a dance mom. I'm a karate mom. All those things are under. I am a sister, a daughter, a cousin, a niece. Those are things that fall under who I am. That's what this whole lesson's about, is self-concept, self-communication, and self. It's communication and self. Who are you? So let's go ahead and dive into it, shall we? The book tells us ourself is the definition is the sum total of who we are, our inner force. And then from that spurns self-concept, which is a subjective description of who we are. It's self-concept is what we use to describe ourselves to others. That's what falls, self is who we are, and self-concept is how we would describe ourselves. So as what helps, what creates who we are? What are the factors of who we are? So there's attitudes, beliefs, and values. Attitudes are our learned predispositions to respond to a person, an object, or ideas, favorable or unfavorable. So pretty much what your attitude is your likes or dislikes. Okay, I like strawberry ice cream. Don't come at me, folks, I like pineapple on pizza. I don't really eat pizza much, but I do like pineapple on pizza. I like sushi. I like crazy hair colors. I didn't come out of the womb liking strawberry ice cream or sushi. As I have grown and throughout the years, these are things I discovered I liked. I used to be vegetarian. I was vegetarian for about 12 years of my life. And then when I stopped being a vegetarian, I tried sushi and fell in love with it. I'm like, what have I been missing? Strawberry ice cream. I've always liked strawberry ice cream. I really like home-churned ice cream with the strawberries in it. I use food a lot for references. But pretty much attitudes are what we like and don't like. We aren't born liking things or not liking them. So it's as we've grown up and have come in contact with the world, we've determined what we like, and it changes. Our likes and dislikes can change. You can like something and then a few years later not like it anymore. And people do that. People do that with food. They'll eat something and then they get a food aversion. They do that with bands. They do that with clothing. They do that with, insert here all things you like and don't like. I used to love fried mushrooms. I don't really like them anymore. It's a food aversion type situation, but socks. I love socks, but I don't like the way certain socks feel on my feet because of the line in the socks. It's just things. Or you think about kids. Kids are like, oh, I don't like that. But then it changes. Or, your kids could eat all the fruit in one day and then you go back and get fruit and it can sit there for weeks. Likes and dislikes, they can change. They're ever evolving and ever changing, but that's what attitudes are. It's just your likes and dislikes. So that shapes who we are. It could be like, I don't like the band U2. Don't come at me if you're a U2 fan. It's nothing personal. It's not my cup of tea. I'm also not a big fan of the band Coldplay. And I know those are two very popular bands with people. It's just not me, nor am I. Don't come at me. I'm not a big fan of John Mayer. My husband loves John Mayer. I'm like, yeah, to each their own. La la. It's just our likes and dislikes, and they can change. The next that we talk about is beliefs. And beliefs are the way in which we structure our understanding of reality. What's true or false? So, what is true or false? Beliefs are what we believe to be true or false. We believe our family loves us. We believe our partner loves us. We believe, it's just what you believe. And attitudes can go with, work with, develop with attitudes. So you have your likes and dislikes and what we believe and don't believe, Maybe we believe in Santa Claus, or we believe the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy. And then at a certain age, you're like, I don't believe anymore, or your belief system changes. So it's what you believe is true or false. I believe if I brush my teeth twice a day, 3 times a day, 12 times a day, I will have good dental hygiene. Or I believe if I eat 2 little Debbie cakes a day, I'm going to be the happiest person in the world. I had a really weird example, but I was just going off. So we have attitudes and beliefs that help shape who we are. And then lastly in that trio is values. Value is enduring. I'm looking off. My notes are off to the side, guys. So if you see me looking off screen, it's because I'm looking at my notes. Enduring concept of good or bad. So right or wrong. So this is what you just believe is good or bad. And our values can change as well. So what you believe are good and bad when you were younger can change as you become a tween or a teenager or a young adult. And as you grow older, it changes. All these things can change. Your attitudes, your beliefs, your values all can change. You can believe what's true or false or what's right or wrong, and it can change. But all that coexists together to create you. So what I like or dislike or think is good or bad or is right or wrong is not the same as yours. And it's also not the same in a family unit. What I think is good or bad, right or wrong, or like or dislike, it's not the same as like my children. They're young. I have an 8-year-old and 2 6-year-olds. I can steer them. I don't want to say steer. I can guide saying this is good or bad or this is right or wrong, but it's also, their learning experience say this is good or bad. If I put this in my mouth, that's, you think of little kids. It's bad. Well, if I don't do this, that's not good. Or, I try to ensure just be kind to others, be nice to others. That's my part of the good or bad. But that can change for them as they get older and learn their own ways and are out in the world more. Their concept of good or bad or true or false and likes or dislikes can change from mine. So all that encompasses who we are. And the book, and you'll see in the PowerPoint, has this it all coexists and spins together. So that's all that. So who we are, and then it talks about attitudes, beliefs, and values. Then let's talk about being consciously aware of who we are. So the book says, it talks about mindfulness, and it's the ability to think consciously about what we are doing and experience. So sometimes we do things subconsciously, like, hold on, let me adjust my computer here. Whew, hi, there was like a up close and personal on my face. We do things subconsciously, but not, mindfulness is taking in and thinking about what we're doing. So you're not supposed to talk on the phone and drive, nor are you supposed to text and drive. So it's being mindful of that, because maybe you used to have the habit of talking on the phone and driving. I used to have a habit of talking on the phone and driving, and it's not like, and I wasn't focused on the talking on the phone and driving. It's just something that I did while I was driving. That's what they're talking about with mindfulness. It's being able to actually really put thought into what you are doing and what you're experiencing. Now, from there's subjective self-awareness, and this is the ability to differentiate, to tell the difference from self from the physical and social environment. So, you're not part of the chair that you're sitting in, but you're part of a group. So it could be in a classroom setting. So it's being able to differentiate yourself from your physical and social environment. And then there's objective self-awareness, which is the ability to object one's own thought and attention to be aware of one's state of mind, that one is thinking. What do I mean by that? Because that was a lot of technical book jargon. It's the ability to turn on or turn off what we're aware of. So we have the ability to think about our own thoughts even as you are thinking them. So it's really just taking in and thinking to yourself. It's being able to be aware of yourself, but you can turn that on and turn that off. Sometimes you're aware of what you're thinking about, but sometimes you're not aware of what you're thinking about, because I get that when I'm like off in la la land staring into space. Then there's symbolic self-awareness. Symbolic self-awareness is this is uniquely human. This is the ability to think about oneself and use language to represent oneself to others. So with this is how we use language and symbols to put ourselves out there. Now, underneath of this, there's a 4-stage model that was created by Abraham Maslow on how we are aware of what we're doing at a given time. So all the self-awareness, let's break it down into this 4-stage model. Stage 1 is unconscious incompetence. What do I mean by unconscious incompetence? We don't know what we don't know. We just don't know. We don't know. Woo-hoo. The next stage is conscious unconsciousness. We know what we don't know. My example for this is, if my car needs to be seen, if it's not like an oil change or fluid check or a tire change or air, I have no clue. If it's something to do with the radiator or a thermostat or a bigger motor problem, I don't know. And I'm aware that I don't know how to fix that. So I go to someone who knows. Okay, say I slice my hand cutting vegetables, or one of my kids breaks their arms. If it's not something I can put a Band-Aid on, like a paper cut or a scrape, I'm not touching it. I'm no doctor. I know that I don't know how to sew up the hand or to fix the broken bone. So I take them to someone who does. So that's 2 levels. We have unconscious. We don't know what we don't know. Conscious unconscious. Not unconscious, but conscious incompetence is we know what we don't know. Then there's conscious incompetence. We know we're learning a skill or a set. We're learning. So what do I mean by this? Think of a job application and it asks you for prior experience or knowledge. This is the point of your consciousness or your competence that you're learning. So you're learning the basics. You're learning the basics of this skill, this craft, this job. This is where you're learning. You're knowing the information, but you don't know it to heart that you can do something second nature, which kind of just rolls us into the last one, unconscious competence. So, excuse me, unconscious competence is, you know it so well, you could do it in your sleep. It's like second nature to you. My example for this is I can make clothes. And when I say make clothes, I can make dresses and skirts and pants and shirts. I can do that stuff. I've been sewing since I was younger. I sewed all through middle school and high school. I went to college for costuming theater. I worked in professional theater for years in costuming, making clothes and taking care of costumes. So I can sit down with fabric and cut and make a costume. I don't have to pull out a pattern piece. I don't have to think about all the different steps involved because I just kind of already know them. I know what fabric works best for something. I can get it, I can cut it, I can sew it, and it's great. So let's recap this 4-step, 4-point model that Maslow talked to us about. So there's unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know. Conscious incompetence is we know what we don't know. Conscious competence is we know what we know. We're learning. And then unconscious competence, we know it so well, it's like second nature. We can do it in our sleep, our hands tied behind our back, and with our eyes blindfolded. So that's the 4 steps. All that falls under in that the self-awareness. So you have, and with the self-awareness, we talked about subjective, objective, and symbolic. So there's just different ways of us just becoming aware of who we are. Oh, hey, so I'm doing this and I need to focus on this, or someone says to you, you can respond in hello, how are you? Or hey, what's up? How you doing? A little Joey in there for you. Or hi, or, whatever the case may be, how, self-awareness is that you're taking that opportunity to present yourself by how you choose to respond in that, hey, how's it going scenario. One or many selves. Shakespeare has the line, to thy own self be true. Is that saying we only have one self, or are there multiple selves? And not only multiple selves, as in we have like numerous personalities. As just when it comes to self-communication and self-concept, there's many selves that we take into factor. So we discussed the material self, and the material self is just what we have around us, and this is your possessions. What you wear, what you own, the car you drive, the house you live in, the apartment that you have, where you live, all that falls under the material self. And some people put a lot of focus into the material self. So I asked you, or I gave the phrase, who are you? And you could answer, material stuff can come into that. Some people may only wear a certain brand of shoe, or a certain brand of makeup, or they only put a certain designer on their body, or designer purses, that falls under there, or drive a particular car. I only want to drive this car. It's the best of the best. That all falls under the material self because it's material things that we've put in our focus into. So there's one description of self. Sorry, I'm like trying to adjust my computer here. We have material self. Then there's the social self. And social self is who you are in a group. Now, what do I mean by that? We associate ourselves with different groups and have since birth. Maybe growing up you were a Boy Scout or you were a Girl Scout, and that was part of yourself. Or you were in a club, or perhaps you're in high school or were in high school and you were a cheerleader or a basketball player or a football player. All those were part of yourself. Or you're a book nerd. Social self is groups that we hang out with. And sometimes our personalities can change to this particular group that we are hanging out with, that we are with. But all that falls under the social self. Sometimes, we will change, you may act different with social self. Okay, so you're at a family gathering, you may act differently at a family gathering than what you do with your group of friends at a sleepover or hanging out at lunch. And then the same as you'll act differently with a group of peers or your co-workers, and then act completely different with a classroom setting, or maybe a club, it's just, it's that, not manipulation, but kind of, I say as a chameleon, we have the ability to change and act depending on the groups that we're in or the people that we hang out with at a moment. And sometimes that can change, and it's ever evolving too. So we have material self and social self. The next we're going to talk about is your spiritual self. Spiritual self encompasses, why am I here? So your spiritual self is, this is your introspection, your introspection about your values, your beliefs, your morals. It's the essence of who we think we are and our feelings about ourselves apart from external evaluation. So it's your internal question of asking, why am I here? That falls under your spiritual self. And this can play in if you are with a particular religion or spiritual group. That falls under the spiritual self. You go along with the lessons you have learned through your organization or your group or your affiliation. Affiliation is the word I'm looking for here. Sorry. Through your affiliation, your beliefs and values and morals line up. They don't have to be exactly like everyone else's that's in this group, but with the affiliation. But, for the most part, they line up together. That's part of the spiritual self. So, again, this falls, but it really is your internal, why am I here, is what's being asked. It's your way. So, the different selves is, we have the material self, which is your possessions, the world around you, your social self, you within a social group, in a social setting, and this can be different selves. Your spiritual self is your internalization of why am I here, which can line up with your religious beliefs or your spiritual beliefs, whatever you may follow or affiliated with, that falls in here. The last touch base one is that it's called the looking glass self. And this, hold on, I gotta hold it for the book. This was presented in 1902 by Charles Horton Cooley. This is the concept that people learn who they are by their interactions with others, and they reflect it back to them. So, really, the breakdown of that is the tit for tat, the communication process. You know how you sender and receiver, and it goes back and forth, or ever evolving circle. This is what we're talking about. So, the looking glass self is that you see the reflection of yourself based off others and your interactions with them. Do you see does this theory is whom you interact with are good or okay or decent or happy or sad? That falls under the looking glass. And this all falls under how our self-concept develops. So we start off by basing it off others. Not off others, but our interactions with others. And then the book talks about frequent. Sorry, I'm trying to. And with frequent, you're more likely to believe something about yourself or someone else if it's something that's said frequently or more often so than others. So if you keep hearing you're a wonderful singer, you're a good singer, you're a great singer, you're more inclined to believe that you have a singing ability. You're a great cook. Oh my God, your cooking's delicious. You're wonderful. You're more inclined to think that you have a talent for cooking. You are an amazing basketball player. You have skill. This is what we're talking about with frequent and developing self-concept. When you hear something, you're more likely to believe it, or, dude, I tasted your pizza and it is not good. It's both positive. You can have positive and negative that falls under this. Then from there is credible. We're more likely to value another statement if we perceive that person to be credible. So if you have a teacher or a boss or a coach or a leader, someone that tells you, hey, great job, you're more likely to believe them, or like, hey, you did great, we need to work on this, because they are someone in a position of credibility. Then there's consistent. We're likely to incorporate others' comments into our own concept of self if they are consistent with our own experiences. So if it's something that kind of coincides with what we already do or think, we're more likely to say it or absorb it into our self-concept. And this goes really under how we're developing. Now we go on to talk about attachment style, and the attachment style is a style of relating to others that develop early in life. This is based on emotional bonds one forms with parents or caregivers. So developing self-concept, it talks about attachment styles, and this is brought on by how we were raised, be it our parents, our caregivers, our family members that were in our life, like a consistent or inconsistent in our life, depending on the attachment style. So quickly we'll touch base on the different attachments. There's secure attachment style, and secure is where the characteristic is that you were in a relationship that was very, very loving, very secure. So you are comfortable in giving and receiving affection or experiencing intimacy or just trusting others. That's secure. Now there's anxious attachment style. This is where you receive some attention or some affection, but not enough for like predictability, secureness, not a consistent secureness. So this gives us anxiety in relationship standards, in being able to open up, to fully commit, to just creating relationships. We're anxious. We're a little cautious in that stepping forward. Then there's avoidance style, and they talk about this. This is where you consistently received little nurturing. It wasn't really there, and because of this, we experience discomfort and awkwardness in creating relationships or intimacy or just getting to know others and letting ourselves be known to others. So those are the different styles. You have attachment and anxious and avoidance style attachment styles. Also in self-concept, it talks about association with groups. I kind of talked about this before in the social groups, but association with groups also it incorporates who we are. And this could be groups that you've been associated with since birth. It could be like, well, hey, I'm from New York, or I'm from Boston. You know, they were all in those. I am from the South, or as you get older, it's groups that you're currently in or were in, you know, okay. Think political. Well, I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Republican, or I'm liberal, or I'm conservative, you know, the gambit here. Those are associations with groups as well. When I was in college, I was associated with a National Honors Theater fraternity, as were most people in the theater program. So that was a group we were associated with. As I've gotten older, a group that I'm associated with now is like I said before, I'm a karate mom and a dance mom. So it's an association that I am part of with this group for my kids. But it's different groups, and it's all come from your ethnicity. You know, this is all also part of culture with our groups and stuff. That all rolls in to creating our who are you. This helps make that. Then we talk about roles that we assume. Roles we assume these are roles or phrases that signify who we are. So like I said before, I'm a mother. I'm also a teacher. I also proclaim myself a nerd dork, and I say that because I love dorky things. I love horror, so I have a lot of horror-based things in my house. I used to be an avid reader. I don't really read as much as I did prior to having kids, but I was an avid reader. There are just these are roles that I assume and that I love. And the same goes for you. You know, I am a sister. I'm also a niece and a daughter. These are roles I assume. And just because we may have the same role does not mean our meaning to that role or affiliation with that role are the same. Because why? Who are you? We're not all the same. It's the beauty of being human, is that we are uniquely beautiful. So keep on being uniquely you. Let me see. Okay, and then there's self-labels, and self-labels is our self-concept is deeply affected by others, but we're not blank slates to be written on. So our attitudes, beliefs, and values and actions also play a role in shaping our self-concept. So do our experiences. So upon that, they talk about reflexiveness in self-labels, and this is the ability to think about what one is doing while doing it. You may call yourself, a self-label would be like telling that you're a musician. That doesn't necessarily mean you're in a band and you're famous, but perhaps you love playing guitar and you've played it for years and you love it, or the piano, or the drums, or the clarinet, or the violin. Or, think of a woman who's been through an intensive pregnancy or label, and she calls herself a hero, which, if you give birth, you are a hero. So many people are heroes. But self-labels are labels that we give ourselves. Okay, I like to call myself a baker. I am not professional by any means, but it's something that I like to do, and I've done for years, and it brings me joy. It calms me down. I can just get lost in making a cake or a cupcake or trying some new dessert. And I enjoy makeup. I'm not professional by any means, but I love playing with it, and I love bright colors, and I love going crazy with it. So that's a self-label. Would other people say that about me? I don't know. Don't really care. But self-labels are what perhaps you call yourself, you are a sports enthusiast. That's a self-label. It's just what we call ourselves. So self-label falls under that. So books kind of talks about our personality and biology, and I'm not going to go and delve into a whole big bunch of it. Personality is a set of enduring behavioral characteristics and internal predispositions for reacting to our environment. What does that mean? Well, we use these forces to shape our personality. So there's 5 big personality traits. That's extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, and openness. Break those down? Extroversion is basically being an extrovert. It's the outgoing, talkative, positive, sociable person, sociable trait of us. Agreeableness is friendly, compassionate, trusting, and cooperative. Conscientiousness is effective, organized, self-disciplined, dutiful, methodical. Neuroticism is you're nervous, insecure, emotionally distressed, and anxious. And then openness is curious, imaginative, creative, adventurous, and inventive. These 5 personality traits, their combination of however they are, is what helps to make you. I call myself an extrovert introvert. I used to be way more just extrovert in my younger years, but as I've gotten older, I kind of keep to myself unless I get to know you, and then it's like, I just talk crazy all the time. But all that falls under, so it comes together in creating who you are. Then the book talks about self-esteem and self-worth. I'm not going to delve deep into it, but you are all amazing. Self-esteem, we can have high self-esteem and low self-esteem in certain days, and it can change daily. You can wake up one day feeling on top of the world, the next day, not so great. And so many things play as factors. Not only do ourselves play a factor to our self-esteem, or how we are perceived, and some people take way more stock into how we're perceived by others than I just said it, than others. And it could be, you pick up magazines, and it's even more so prevalent in the last, 5, 10, 20 years ago. How to get your beach body by summer, how to lose 12 pounds in 2 months, very And that affects your self-esteem. And you think of the early 2000s when these super low-rise jeans were popular. Holy moly, folks. Like, talk about teenage girls and young girls in their 20s striving to get that body where the super low jeans. I'm sorry. I was never a fan of super low jeans. I don't mean to be. If you are a fan of them, that's awesome. They were just not my cup of tea. But, you know, or you pick up magazines, how to get rock hard abs. And you see images and stuff. All that affects, can affect your self-esteem. And then also, social media has played a big part in self-esteem with Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and Snapchat. You know, it's like you see pictures, oh gosh, look at that house. My house looks nothing like that. Or they have this amount of kids and I have the same amount of kids. And how come, you know, what you see is not always really the reality of the world. But it's hard not to be enticed by what you see. Oh my gosh, look at them. They're my age and look at everything that they have. I'm just saying, you all are amazing and never forget that. So as we move forward in who we are, it talks about saving face and stuff, which I'm not really going to touch base. You can get that on the PowerPoint presentation. I am going to touch base on the finishing up of this lesson, if you would. How to, it's self and interpersonal relationships and how, no, that's not what I wanted to. The Jabari window, that's where I was going to go, sorry. So with the last thing I'm going to touch base on is discussing the Jabari window. And the Jabari window, the book has these little demonstrations, illustrations, and think of it as like a little box, a square box into 4 equal parts. So and the Jabari window it's basically a visual description or visual aid of you or a person, a bit of you or a person. One quadrant is labeled open, and this is what's known to others and known to self. So everybody knows it. And then one quadrant is what's known to others but not known to ourselves. So that's labeled as blind. So that's your 2 top quadrants. So let me see if I can get this better. This quadrant is open. This is what's known to everybody and yourself. This is blind. So it's not known to you, but is known to everybody else. And then this one is hidden. It's known to you, but not known to anyone else. So it's like secretive. That's why it's like boarded up. And then there's one is the unknown. It's not known to you or to anyone else. So the Jabari window, and I will post a video specifically about the Jabari window, and it's a previously recorded video about the Jabari window, and then I'll also have some stuff posted. But to break it down more is the Jabari window, it's named after the creator, Joseph Luff and Harry Ingram. And when it talks about quadrant 1 is open area, this is what's known to others and you. So when you first look at a Jabari, all quadrants look the same size, but once you start filling it in and putting information in, it can change, as you can see. Like, you know, straightforward there. The more information you put out in the world, the larger your open quadrant will be. So if you're kind of like an open book, that will be a much larger quadrant on your Jabari window. Now the blind, which is your quadrant 2, which is the one that looks like blinds, it's known to self but not to it's not known to self but known to others. So this is your blind. You may see yourself as generous, but other people might see you as a tightwad or frugal. This is what people think about you, but you don't know that's what people think about you. So it's kind of hard to gauge that one. Then there's the hidden. This is known to self but not known to others. So this is things that you think and know about yourself, but no one else does. No one else knows these things about you. It could be feelings that you have toward other people or groups or family members. It's the point of this quadrant is you don't have to share your whole world with people. You don't have to share you don't have to be so open that everybody knows every single thing about you. A little air of mystery. And people don't have to know if you don't like someone. It doesn't have to, it can be known, but if you don't want it to be known, you don't have to. It's just basically saying it's okay, obviously, it's okay to not share every single detail with the world. And then the very last one, my little light fell off. And that's the unknown, not known to you or others. These are things you don't know about yourself yet. Perhaps you don't know how you'll react under stressful situations, or you're not sure how you stand on a certain issue until you come face to face with it. These are just really uncertain conditions. It's your potential, your untapped physical, mental resources, they're just unknown. So we don't know how we will react in certain situations. You see stuff on the news, this happened, and you think, oh gosh, you would like to think you would react in a certain way, but you're really just unsure because you've never been in that situation before. That's what it means by unknown. You don't know and they don't know because we haven't been put in a situation that, that you would have to know. So that's what the Jabari window breaks down to. And that's pretty much all I'm going over with this lesson. So it's just, remember, this is self and communication. It's really just self-concept. Who are you? Take away from this video lesson, who are you? And the things that make you you. Our attitudes, our beliefs, our values, so things, what we like or dislike, or what we think is good or bad, or right or wrong, they create, they help mold us into who we are. People that we associate with, the way we react and act in social settings, are who we are. The material self, do we take much stock into it? That also creates who we are, our spiritual self. And then as we continue on, like the way we were raised and how we have either continued that attachment style or have created new ones, because so many were raised in a way, and then today's thinking, I've seen it, is that you want to give people the relationship and attention that you did not receive as a child. So you could be breaking generational norms and going a different route. That is a part of who we are. All of these things encompass answers the questions, who are you? Our self-labels, our association with groups, how we interact with others, what we give out into the world, what we put out there. That's who we are, and who, all that falls under. So, thank you all so much.